You send the message, you see the delivered status, and then nothing. You put your phone down, telling yourself you're busy anyway. You focus on work, or the movie you're watching, or the friends you're with. But 10 minutes later, you check. Still nothing. An hour passes, you check again, and suddenly the silence feels loud. You scroll up to read what you sent. Was it too forward? Was it not funny enough? Did you use the wrong emoji? You start calculating the time difference, their work schedule, their commute, creating elaborate mental spreadsheets to justify why they haven't responded. But deep down, a cold, heavy feeling starts spreading in your chest. You're not just annoyed, you feel physically heavy. Your stomach drops, your heart rate actually speeds up. You might even feel a little nauseous. And then the shame hits. You look at yourself and think, why am I being like this? It's just a text. You feel pathetic for caring so much, desperate for needing the validation, and angry that one person's silence has the power to ruin your entire mood. But here's the first thing you need to know, and it's arguably the most important. You are not crazy, you are not desperate, and you are not broken. What you are feeling right now is not a personality defect. It is a biological survival mechanism gone haywire. You are experiencing a primal neurological response to what your brain perceives as a life-threatening danger, social exclusion. When you feel like you are dying inside because of a lack of response, your brain isn't being dramatic. It is misinterpreting digital silence as physical abandonment. And to understand why this hurts so much, you have to stop looking at your phone and start looking at your biology. This reaction starts in a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the same region that lights up when you crush your finger in a door or burn your hand on a stove. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain doesn't really distinguish between social pain, like rejection or being ignored, and physical pain. To your nervous system, they use the exact same neural pathways. When you are waiting for that text and it doesn't come, your brain registers the silence as a physical injury. That tightness in your chest, that pit in your stomach, that is real pain. It makes sense when you look at how we evolved. For thousands of years, humans relied entirely on the tribe for survival. If you were ignored or excluded by your group, you didn't just feel sad, you died, you starved, or you were eaten by predators. So your brain developed a super-sensitive alarm system to detect the slightest hint of rejection. In the ancient world, silence meant you were being ostracized. Today, that ancient alarm system is still running in the background, but instead of scanning for predators or tribal council judgments, it's scanning for 3 little dots on a screen. And before you think this is just something that affects people who are too sensitive or clingy, research shows this hits almost everyone. While cultural stereotypes often paint women as the ones analyzing text patterns, men experience the exact same cortisol spike and drop in dopamine. The difference is often just in how it's expressed. Men might react with sudden withdrawal or irritability, while women might lean into social rumination, talking it through with friends. But the internal mechanism, the panic of disconnection, is universal. But there is something that makes texting specifically worse than face-to-face rejection. It's the ambiguity, the uncertainty. If someone walks away from you in person, it hurts, but it's final. You know where you stand. A text left unread or delivered is an open loop. Your brain hates open loops. It craves closure. When you don't get a response, your brain starts generating stories to fill the gap. And because your survival instinct is active, it doesn't generate happy stories, it generates worst-case scenarios to prepare you for the threat. This is why you suddenly remember that awkward thing you said 3 years ago, or you convince yourself they're with someone else, or you decide they've secretly hated you this whole time. Your brain is trying to predict the dangers so it can protect you, but in doing so, it traps you in a cycle of anxiety. You check the phone again, still nothing, and with every check, the loop tightens. It gets darker when you realize that modern technology is actually designed to exploit this vulnerability. This is the concept of intermittent reinforcement. It's the same psychological principle that makes slot machines addictive. If you pulled the lever and won every single time, you'd get bored. If you pulled it and never won, you'd walk away. But if you win sometimes, unpredictably, you will keep pulling that lever until you are bankrupt. When someone is inconsistent with their texting, replying instantly one day and disappearing for 6 hours the next, they are accidentally, or sometimes intentionally, turning themselves into a slot machine. You don't know when the win is coming, the text, so your dopamine levels spike in anticipation and crash in disappointment, over and over. This creates a chemical bond that feels like passion or intense love, but it's actually just addiction to the cycle of anxiety and relief. You aren't necessarily addicted to the person, you're addicted to the relief you feel when the silence finally ends. And this is where many people get stuck, for months or even years. You start confusing anxiety for chemistry. You think, I must really like them because I'm so stressed about this. But healthy attachment is calm. Healthy attachment is consistent. If your nervous system feels like it's being electrocuted every time you wait for a reply, that's not a sign of a great romance, that's a sign of a triggered attachment system. And here is where we have to be very real about the behavior on the other side. There's a difference between someone who is simply a bad texter and someone who is using silence as a weapon. In psychology, this is called stonewalling, or the silent treatment, and it is a form of emotional manipulation. If you notice that the silence happens conveniently whenever you set a boundary, or ask for reassurance, or bring up a concern, that is not a busy schedule, that is control.
You have to be careful not to gaslight yourself here. You might tell yourself, I'm just being demanding, or they are busy at work. And sure, people get busy. But nobody is too busy to send a 10-second text for 3 days straight if they value the connection. If the pattern is chronic inconsistency that leaves you feeling small and confused, you are not dealing with a communication style difference. You are dealing with someone who is comfortable letting you sit in pain. This constant state of waiting mode destroys your ability to be present in your own life. You might notice that when you're waiting for a text, you can't focus on your job. You're physically in the room with your family, but mentally you're in the digital waiting room. You pause your life. You don't start the movie because they might call. You don't go to the gym because you might miss the notification. You are effectively putting your actual life on hold for a virtual potentiality. You are abandoning yourself to wait for them. And the worst part? You probably think that if you just play it cool, if you wait twice as long to text them back, you'll regain the power. But pretending you don't care when you're actually dying inside is a form of self-betrayal. It signals to your own brain that your needs don't matter. It reinforces the idea that you have to perform apathy to be lovable. So, what do you actually do about this? How do you stop the spiral when the phone is silent and your chest is tight? First, you need a physiological interrupt. This is an immediate, right-now strategy. When you catch yourself staring at the screen and spiraling, you need to physically shock your system out of the fight or flight mode. Put the phone in another room, literally walk away from it. Then splash cold water on your face or hold an ice cube in your hand. This sounds too simple to work, but it activates the diving reflex, which physically slows down your heart rate and forces your nervous system to regulate. You cannot think your way out of a panic spiral. You have to feel your way out. Once your heart rate is down, you need to separate the data from the story. The data is, they haven't texted in 4 hours. That is a neutral fact. The story is, they are losing interest, I am annoying, I will die alone. The story is what is hurting you, not the data. Write down the story you're telling yourself and then look at it. Is it 100% true? Do you have evidence? Or is this your old abandonment wound talking? Next, you need to reclaim your time. This is the active waiting rule. If you are waiting for a text, you are forbidden from doing nothing. You must engage in a high-focus activity. Play a video game, call a friend, and do not talk about the text. Go for a run, cook something complex. You need to remind your brain that your existence continues whether they reply or not. You need to prove to yourself that you are the main character of your life, not an extra waiting for a cue. On a relational level, you need to evaluate the pattern. If this is a new person, observe the data. If they are consistently inconsistent, stop trying to decode it and start believing it. Inconsistency is an answer. It's an answer that says, I am not capable of offering the stability you need right now. And that is okay. It's painful, but it's information. If this is an established relationship or someone you are actually dating, you have to move from testing to communicating. A lot of us wait silently, hoping they will read our minds and text us, and then we get angry when they don't. That's a trap. It is incredibly empowering to just say, hey, I know you're busy, but I feel a bit disconnected when we go a whole day without talking. Can we do a quick check-in at night? Notice how that sounds. It's not an accusation. It is not, you never text me. It is a statement of your needs. Vulnerability is the ultimate filter. If you say that and they respond with kindness and effort, you've solved the problem. If you say that and they call you needy or crazy, you have your answer. You are with someone who cannot meet your needs, and knowing that is better than wondering. And if you are reading this and realizing that you have been stuck in this loop for years, that every relationship feels like this, that even safe people make you panic when they get quiet, then this might be about your attachment style. That's not a life sentence. It just means your alarm system is calibrated a little too high. It means you might need to do some work, perhaps with a therapist, to learn how to self-soothe so that your sense of safety comes from inside you, not from your notification center. If you try these strategies, if you communicate your needs, if you regulate your nervous system, and you still feel paralyzed, that is a sign to pay attention to. Sometimes our intuition is screaming at us that a situation is wrong for us, and we interpret it as anxiety. If you feel like you're walking on eggshells, constantly afraid that one wrong text will make them disappear, that is not a relationship. That is a hostage situation. But here is what changes everything when you really get this. You stop needing the text to prove you exist. You realize that your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's response time. You are the same person whether they text back in 5 seconds, 5 hours, or never. Your worth is a constant. Their attention is a variable. And once you detach your self-worth from their digital behavior, you become dangerous in a good way. You become someone who cannot be manipulated by intermittent reinforcement. You become someone who chooses partners based on how they make you feel, not based on how hard you have to work to get their attention. 6 months from now, you will look back at this specific text you are waiting for right now, and you won't even remember what it was about. You might not even remember this person's name, but you will remember how you treated yourself in the waiting. Did you abandon yourself, or did you stay with yourself? The silence on your phone is not a reflection of your worth. It's just silence. You can fill it with fear, or you can fill it with your own life. You can leave the phone on the table, walk out the door, and go be part of the real world. The text will come, or it won't. But you will be okay either way, because you are no longer waiting for permission to be okay.